Okay, this is a great topic actually. I'd like to start the explanation referring to the question I asked you at the beginning, how to classify malware, how to classify the types of the models or the categories of the malware. We had the answer last class actually when we talked about the behavior. The payload will be executed by each, and we specify that there are three groups mainly: viruses, trojans, and worms. The main key to answer the question is the payload or the behavior of the malware itself. So to classify a malware to be a virus, or to classify a malware to be a worm, or to classify the malware to be a trojan. So it is a context of payload to execute. How this payload is being executed, what is the impact after the execution, or how it is getting or it got into your environment. So those are aspects to classify each malware with the respective category. At the end of the day, the behavior, it's the question answer. So I'm gonna proceed step by step, and meanwhile, if you have any questions, you may ask. We started this unit, and it's not the first time, and I believe that you are able to have a first understanding of what does mean malware, and a clear understanding of the question how to classify the types of the categories, or how to classify malware code into types or into categories. I believe we were here actually last unit. So from here, I'm going to continue. Before let's have a small look at the definition of those types here, and then after we continue. So the malware mainly they are classified into categories. Yes, we said trojans, viruses, and worms. For what it concerns, the viruses as a category or as a type of malware, we have different types also of viruses. It's not a virus and that's it. This is a virus and that's it. No, this is a computer program classified to be a virus and that's it. No, it's not like that. There is a scenario behind to classify the viruses themselves into types. Means there are different viruses types. The answer is yes. Yes, true. Based on what you classify the viruses, which is a category of malware, into types. Again, it's the file generating the virus type, property, or the behavior, the payload of the virus. To classify the virus into different types. The very famous and the very primitive virus available on a Windows environment is the exe files, the executables. Not only the exes, because the system files, they are also classified to be a model of this same type, the file infector virus, sort of viruses that they are actually generated based on the creation of exe file, the executables. I said that they are in a Windows environment. Why? Because in Unix environments, we do not have the exe files. They do not get executed. They are useless. So they are paralyzed, the exe files. In the Unix environment. File infector virus, at the end of the day, they are a Windows type of viruses. Absolutely true. They are not Unix viruses, let's say. Another type, it is based on the space where it lives, the resident virus. It lives in the RAM, the random access memory, which is the volatile memory. And in here, we have the initial definition that the RAM of the computer is off, the power is off. The content of the RAM is being volatile, is being actually vanished, deleted completely. There is a sort of a computer program that lives inside the RAM, even the power is off. It's an electromagnetic field that actually is persistent to stay in the RAM even during the off time resident virus. It is a category, it is a type of a computer program classified based on its payload to do a harm to the computer content, and its place of action is the RAM. So this is a resident virus. Another type of a virus, which is the boot virus. The boot virus, actually, here again we are talking about a very famous technical word, the boot. Actually, booting the computer. To boot a computer or to boot a device, not only a computer, you have to load the operating system files from the storage space into a RAM or a volatile memory to be operating. This is the fact of the activity or the act of the booting, to boot. The boot virus is a sort of computer program. The boot virus, I'm saying. Concentrate and be with me, please. The boot virus is a sort of a computer program that is dominating a boot sector. What does it mean? The action of boot is controlled by an MBR. What is the MBR? Master boot record. It's a sort of file responsible for loading the operating system files from the storage space to the RAM, the volatile memory. Who is going to load the operating system from the hard disk into the RAM? Who is it? Is it automatically? There is nothing called automatically. It's not a mystery here. There is a systematic approach to load the operating system from the storage space, which is the hard disk, whatever this the storage space is, to the volatile memory to load, to be operated later on. This behavior is the responsibility of the MBR, the master boot record. Let me just type it just for a second. This is the behavior of the MBR, master boot record. Master boot record. It's a file responsible for loading the operating system from the hard disk to the RAM. It's one file available in one location, which is a sector, which is the first sector of the hard disk. And thus, because it's the first sector, it is named boot sector. It is the sector used for boot, to boot the operating system. The boot virus dominates this boot sector, controls the boot sector. So what does it do? It damages this MBR. The boot virus damages this MBR, damages the file, the master boot record file. And if the MBR is damaged, so the operating system will not load, thus the computer will not work. Who can repeat the definition of this boot virus? I give you 2 marks extra in this midterm next Thursday. If you just repeat the definition of the boot virus I'm giving you now. درجتين الميدترم يوم الخميس هذا. Can you do that, please?
Yes, Mr.
Listen, Abir, tell me. Hurry up.
No, I think Mr.
Can you repeat the definition, please? Anybody? المعتصم, can you repeat the definition?
Of what sector?
ما سمعت.
Infect the tool sector.
The boot virus, okay?
The boot sector.
It affects the boot sector. Yeah, okay. How I define that? Define it to me again, please.
For example, it runs when you turn on the PC.
Yeah,
or
absolutely. Yes. Yes. Continue.
it controls the computer remotely.
وضح صوتك.
It controls the computer remotely.
Yes, continue.
And that's it.
This is the behavior of the boot. Yeah. Okay. Hey, what is the role of the boot virus and how it acts? What you said is the boot, the behavior of the boot. It's correct. The boot, the normal boot. Now we are defining the boot virus. No worries. You'll have other chances. Just briefly, I said that the boot virus is a sort of a computer program that dominates the boot sector. The boot sector is the first location in the hard disk where the MBR is. The MBR is the file, the sort of a file responsible for loading the operating system from the hard disk, from the storage device to the RAM. So the boot virus dominates the boot sector, thus it infects the MBR, it damages the MBR, and this causes the operating system not to load fully. The full computer is off, cannot run. The companion virus is another sort of type of, let's say, computer program classified to be a malware. Why? Because it has a payload to infect the environment and it damages the environment where it resides, yet it is given the name companion virus. Why? Because it looks like regular files and resources, in the sense of you are habituated with the sort of, let's say, a list of files and resources, and you are finding 2 or 3 copies. Which one you are going to click? You click any. Why it is happening like that? Because of the availability of the companion virus. The companion virus is there in your environment. How I knew that? I said that there are 2 or 3 copies of your file. How it comes? The companion virus has generated something like your resources to make you feel confused, and thus you mistaken, and you click the virus instead of the normal and the habitual file. Once you click the virus, you are activating it. So companion virus is a sort of a virus that has a tricky tactic by mimicking the resources you have in your environment. Resources might be Word files, might be Excel files, might be system files, might be anything in your environment. Companion virus. Macroviruses, they are a sort of another type of viruses that they are specifically and exactly generated using the Office Pack solution only. They do operate in another environment? No, completely no. Only within the Office Pack, but they infect the full environment. For example, we can use the Microsoft Word to generate a macro virus. Yes, we can. But will it only infect the Microsoft Word? No, it infects the full computer. It can damage the full computer. It can be generated using the Office Pack tools only, but it can infect the full environment. Even the operating system, it can damage it. It can damage it. Yeah. Macro virus. Why macro viruses? Because within the Office tools, there is a technology enhancing writing scripts named macro. This is a technology inside the Office, the macro. So it is named by the technology only. Macro virus is linked to the macro of the Office tools, no more, no less. Another type of the computer viruses, which is the morphic viruses, the metamorphic and the polymorphic. Those are very dangerous types of viruses. They are actually having a chance to alterate and regenerate themselves. They are very tricky and very dangerous. Once those two, one of them is available in your environment, so your full environment is in a very big danger because they are very hard to be detected and very hard to be removed. Those two types of viruses. Starting with the metamorphic viruses, they are sort of viruses that they do very successfully get spread in your environment by changing their status. They are not all the same, let's say, shape and size and things like that. If you detect one metamorphic virus, for example, in the desktop, do not expect you'll find the same file and the same name and the same shape from the same virus inside the computer in another location, for example, in documents or in C drive or in D drive. No, it will be actually available with a different shape. How it looks like, it's not the same. Thus, it is said metamorphic. It's the same virus, but with a different shape. So the antivirus even will not detect. If he detects one copy, does not mean he detects all the virus resources. No, there are other copies which are with a different architecture. Another type which is more catastrophic, which is more dangerous, the polymorphic virus. It has the same behavior. It can hide and alterate its shape and its architecture, but also it encrypts its content. Means once detected, it cannot be analyzed. Means even scanned with the most powerful antiviruses, it won't be detected easily to be classified as a virus because the content is encrypted already. It won't be scanned easily to say or to decide whether it is a virus or not. So it's more dangerous, this polymorphic virus. Any questions on this level, please?
Thank you, Doctor.
No, stop.
Great. The other type, the other category of malware is the worms. The worms, actually, they are still, we are talking about computer programs only, and they are having a payload to execute at the end of the day, and they are actually classified as malware through. That's what makes them be worms, not viruses. Again, it's the payload itself, it's the behavior. The worms, they penetrate the environment in somehow like the virus only, but they do infect an environment, not an operating system. The worms, they do not have to attach themselves into an application to spread in a network. No, by themselves they spread in the network. The worm sends itself through the network. It does not wait for you to send email to be attached or to share a file to get attached to that file and be spread in the network. No, the worms by itself, it infects the environment, the network connected to the computer. So if you have a computer in a network that has a worm and that computer is connected to a network, the full network might have a copy of that worm without any behavior from the user. You do not need to click or to open, or no, it will get spread by itself. By itself. So it will search for vulnerabilities and travel through the network, across the network. What it will do when it travels, it do all what a virus can do or what a malware can do: infect, conceal, and search for profit. Infect, conceal, and profit. So here actually a small table to distinguish in between both the malware and the virus and the worm. One very big difference between this and that is that a virus has to be attached into a resource. Has to be attached. It means a virus to travel from a computer to another computer, it has to be attached into a file, a Word file or an email or something like that. The worm, no, by itself it gets traveled across the network. The worm does not need from the user to click or to open. The worm do itself. A worm is it's actually more fast, and it can act without the user behavior. You have a computer connected to the network. The full network will receive a copy of the worm without any action from the user. But the virus, no, it cannot travel. It requires an action from the user. Thus, the worm infects the environment, which is the network. The virus, it is intended to infect a one computer only.